And a very good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. It's been a long time, guys. A lot's happened, but that's for another time. So, as everybody has been, the internet has been a buzz today. It usually is for a lot of reasons, but today it was a buzz for a different reason. So, as everybody knows, that is a movie fan, a movie aficionado, what have you, there is a little franchise out there that has been around for the better part of 30 years. It'll be 30 years actually next year. And that is Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible is this franchise that just keeps giving. It really does on every single level. So the reason I come on today, okay, of all days, right? The reason I came on today is because there was a brand new trailer for the final installment, what we think is the final installment of Mission Impossible. So, as so the last film, okay, actually came out in 2023. Okay, so let me go over real quick what I'm going to be going over with everybody today, real quick. The first and foremost, okay, what I'm going to talk about is the franchise in itself and how it's really changed our zeitgeist, our culture, everything else. Tom Cruise is a star, possibly. Then I'm going to talk about the money of the franchise. Now, you say, well, I thought you got out of the money issue. You're right, I did. But because this is the last film in the franchise, I think it bears noting where this has come, how far this has come, how much money this has made, the achievements, everything else. And then, okay, I'm going to talk about the two different types of franchises. Not two different types of franchises. What I mean is the franchises that have stopped. So we've had a lot of franchises over the last 25 or 30 years that have had two parts. I'm going to talk about those where I thought some of them stopped early, where some I thought that weren't done so well, where I thought everybody was really good, and then where I think this is going. The final segment, okay, of this stream today is going to be about the trailer breakdown, but obviously, since I can't show you the trailer because I don't want to get a strike, I'm going to show you a lot of images. And with those images, I'm going to give you the projection of where I think this might. For the record, guys, I have no inside knowledge about this. Okay. These are all speculations, predictions, put that out there, and where I think it's going to go. And then finally, what I'm going to do is, as the title insinuates, is this the end of Mission Impossible? So we got to figure out, is there going to be another Mission Impossible? If it is this going to be like a James Bond thing where every 30 years, so in this case, the reins are getting passed off? Or is this done? So once again, for everybody that comes in, welcome to the stream. This is going to be about, once again, the final reckoning. The final reckoning. And this is, I think the title says a lot here, right? Because the final reckoning says the end. It says, that's it. No more. Done. Kaput. Now, anybody who remembers this from a couple years ago, okay, we also had Dead Reckoning Part 1. So usually, guys, when we have a movie, okay, that is a Part 1, okay, think about all of the films over the past 25 years that you know of, okay, that have had Part 1 in the title, okay? Now, I know for a fact when it was announced, okay, that Infinity War was originally going to be done as Part 1 and Part 2 when Kevin Feige announced that back in 2016, 2017, I think. So that had a Part 1 in it, okay? You have The Hunger Games. You have Doom. You have all these movies that have a Part 1, okay? The Hunger Games Part 2, Dune Part 2. All of these other movies have a Part 2 to them. That's important, okay? Because they're so big, okay, they need 2 parts. And I'll tell you why in a couple of minutes. So, that being said, we've talked about the title, okay? Let's get on to the cast, because I think the cast is very important here, okay? The cast is something that every single person, with the exception of one, is coming back. Okay, let me repeat that again. Every single cast member, with the exception of one, is coming back. And that one, of course, is Rebecca Ferguson. So anybody who's an aficionado of Mission Impossible that have watched all of the Mission Impossibles up to that point know what happens to her in Dead Reckoning. I'm not going to spoil it for you, okay? But it's definitely worth mentioning, okay? Of course, you have Tom Cruise. You have Haley Atwell coming back. She just made her appearance in the, part 1. Okay, you've got Katie O'Brien, who's a brand new addition. I think she's a fantastic, underrated actress. Guys, if you haven't seen Love Lies Bleeding, take the 2 hours, take the time, and go watch that. That's a great movie. You have Nick Offerman, who, of course, has done a lot of stuff, but mainly, of course, he's known right now for The Last of Us and that fantastic episode. Okay. Vin Rames. So a little nugget. Okay. There are only 2 actors that have appeared in every single Mission Impossible film over the course of this 29-year run. Tom Cruise and Vin Rames. Cruise, obviously, because he's a star. Vin Rames in every single one. So that's an impressive little statistic. Okay. You have Elijah Gonzalez, okay, or Eli Gonzalez, who's coming back as Gabriel. Okay, so anybody who's watched the first film, he was really good. Now, he's done a lot of other stuff, but he was really good. You have, Charles Parnell, who's coming back. That's not listed here. You have the guy that played Kittredge. He's coming back. Of course, you have Simon Pegg. Okay. You have a lot of these guys and gals coming back. Angela Bassett's going to be in it, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So that is the cast. It's a huge, huge cast. Okay. So once again, we have all of these characters, all of these storylines, and where is it going to go? Vanessa Kirby, of course, she's going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie, coming out in July. She has been tearing it up as of recently. I can't wait for Fantastic Four in July. Do me a favor, guys. In the comments section, drop me who your favorite character is and which Mission Impossible you first noticed them in. Was it Simon Pegg in Mission Impossible 3? Was it Vin Rames in the original Mission Impossible? Drop those down in the comments. I want to see what those are. So that is the cast of this second film. Okay. Now, let's start to slowly move on to part 2. Okay. Part 2 is going to talk about, before we get to part 2, okay, let's talk about one other thing. Because the number one reason, besides enjoyment, okay, is these cost a lot. And I mean a lot of money. This film here is actually rumored, nobody will ever know the correct number, but it's rumored to be over $400 million. Now think about that for a minute. $400 million. Now, that's insane. Think about this. Infinity War, okay, and Endgame, okay. Infinity War and Endgame cost $250 million. That's right. $250 million. Each one of these films cost $250 million to make. Now, obviously, a lot of that was, CGI, but still, that's a huge, huge amount of money. Now, you also have to understand, too, these 2 movies were the end of a almost 12-year saga over 20 films, multiple characters, multiple universes. So when you get to the end, as it states, Endgame, you're going to have that. Now, this franchise has been around for actually longer than Marvel. Okay, this has been around. This will be the 29th year of this franchise. Okay, and over the course of that, there have been 8 films. Okay, so there have been 8 films over the course of 29 years. So let's just dive into a few of these. Okay, because I think it's always fascinating to actually look at the statistics of something like this when it comes down to the end. Now, as you will see, okay, gradually, each one of these movies are getting a bigger and bigger and bigger budget. Okay, so for Mission Impossible, okay, it was $90 million. Now, that sounds like a lot of money. It was back then, okay? $90 million was quite a bit of money for back then in 1996, okay? You also have to look at the zeitgeist of the time, okay? And what I mean by that is, let's talk about that for a minute. In 1996, we had movies like Scream come out. And the other thing, too, is that we had a lot of other movies, but the big fad during that time was taking a TV show and adapting it to the big screen. So think about the movies that came out right around that time. We had the Beverly Hillbillies. We had the Flintstones. We had the Addams Family. Now, obviously, not the action-packed thing that Mission Impossible was, but at the time, you're thinking to yourself, okay, Tom Cruise, and guys, I will link the playlist down in the description for everybody to watch the other videos. So, without going too deep into it, at the time, Tom Cruise was looking for something to make. Okay, and so what he did was he went to Paramount, and he said, "Look, I want something that. What am I going to be able to make?" Paramount opened the library up to him. He found Mission Impossible. He's like, that's it. That's it. Now, at the time, he was just starting the production company with his longtime agent, Paul Wagner. And anybody who's watched the first Mission Impossible, the first, credits that roll, it's a Cruise Wagner production. This was the very, very beginning for him. The other thing, too, is because this is where the stunts came in and everything else. He went to forego his salary because the insurance, of course, would have been huge. He's like, look, I don't want any money. I just want to put a good movie on screen. So even 30 years ago, he was thinking about this. At that point, it takes off. It absolutely skyrockets. Okay, now, it's not to say, okay, well, he's Tom Cruise. He can make anything and make money. You're right. You're absolutely right. So at the time, okay, let's go back here and see if we can find out. It made a worldwide box office of $457 million. That was the first movie, guys. That was the first movie. $457 million on a $90 million budget. That's huge. Usually, and by the way, this graph here, and I know it's hard to see, so if you want to follow along, go to the numbers. Okay, it's Google the numbers, movies. Okay, and it will give you franchises, graph. It's a fantastic website, so that's where I got this from. And so that's what this is from. Each one of these bars represents one movie. So we can see right down here that this first one here is Mission Impossible. So it had a $90 million budget. Okay. And you can see how it just took off. Okay. So that's important. So then let's look at the next film. Okay. Mission Impossible 2, which came out 4 years later. Okay. Which you got to remember, guys, the reason why it took so long to make, okay, is because we had John Woo. John Woo is a fantastic director. Okay. He did Face Off, and he did Broken Arrow back to back. And Broken Arrow was 96, and I think Face Off was 98. And if I'm wrong, correct me, guys. So then he action right up the alley. Boom, this is right in his wheelhouse. He does Mission Impossible 2. Now, the film was, I think it was subpar. I think it was the worst of the bunch. Once again, guys, you can go back and watch my review on it in the playlist. Once again, I will link it down in the playlist or the description for you guys. So that had a little bit bigger of a budget. Okay. That had $120 million. Okay. Now that still made a lot of money. Okay. It ended up making $545 million. Okay. Still quite a bit of money for the time. Okay. I think that it really, once again, wasn't really the greatest film in the world. But still, for what it did for the box office, was huge. Was absolutely huge. So that being said, okay, let's go to, here we go. So let's go to the third film, guys. Okay, now this is where I think it really starts to take off. So it's always hard, as everybody knows, with movies, it's always more difficult to make a second film better than the first. It just is. Okay, so let's move to the third film. Okay, the third film, okay, was done 6 years later. Now that's a big jump. That's a big jump because you don't know where are the guests. Is Tom Cruise going to want to come back after this, or how does that work? Okay. So yeah, he did come back. I think it's the best one. I think we had the best villain of the bunch, hands down. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. Philip Seymour Hoffman was incredible. That had a budget of $150 million. Now, once again, we're bumping up the budgets, guys. So we started at 90, we've gone to 120, now we're at 150. And here's the thing. Not only did it have a great villain, and not only did it have all the other things you're looking for, but it had something else. J.J. Abrams' directorial debut. Yes, guys. The same guy that did Alias, yes, the same guy that did Lost, also made his directorial debut with Mission Impossible 3. It was great. Okay. Hence, it comes out. It has a $400 million take home. Now, you may say, well, that didn't make enough money. Yeah, but look at the story. Okay. This is where things start to. And by the way, guys, up until that point, okay, we're talking about 3 different directors. As we get further into this, I'll talk about how one director kind of stabilized things. So we've had 3 different directors of 3 different films. This was definitely a great film. Okay. So it makes just a shade under $400 million. $150 million here. Okay. You got to remember, guys, this is all the way back almost 20 years ago. So this is 06. The next film, okay, which is important, is Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol, okay, is, so we had a 6-year gap. Now we've got a 5-year gap, guys. These are big, big jumps. You think, well, are fans still going to be interested after 5 years? And the answer is yes, because Tom Cruise does everything practically. Everything practically. And I think that's a big thing too. Okay, you're not talking about a CG robot or anything else doing it. He is the one doing this. Okay, so now you have Ghost Protocol, okay, which makes almost $700 million. That's right. It had a $145 million budget, so it had $5 million less than Mission 3 and made almost $300 million more. That's incredible. Okay. Once again, the story. Brad Bird is the one that actually started that. Okay, this was the only mission film he did, but it's still worth mentioning. Okay, and I'm gonna a little bit later. I'm gonna talk about the 4 or 5 things that really propelled Mission Impossible into the stratosphere here. Okay, as we move on to Rogue Nation. Okay, now you got to understand something, guys. This is the first time that we've had a linear story. Up until that point, it was like James Bond. Okay, before before Casino Royale back in I want to say 06. Okay, it was episode by episode by episode by episode. Okay, they were non-linear. Take James Bond. Think of all the James Bond movies up until Casino Royale in 06. They started getting linear. This is the first time we've had a linear type of story. So anybody who's seen Ghost Protocol knows that at the end of the Ghost Protocol, okay, we have, they're sitting in Seattle, okay, and Jeremy Renner's character is, they get the job done, but he's like, I can't take that phone because your wife is dead because of me, okay, and Ethan basically says, well, how do you know she's dead? Well, I saw the body. Well, nobody could know. Okay. She ends up coming on the ferry. They exchange a glance. And then you have Paula Patton, you have Jeremy Renner, and you have Simon Pegg, who joined in Mission 3. Okay. Go off and do their thing. And we get all of them back for the next film. So this is where things start to get a little more interesting, right? Yeah. So this is the first time we're starting to get a linear type of thing. So that's the end of Ghost Protocol. Okay. Rogue Nation. So at the end, by the way, I love the end of Ghost Protocol, where he's walking with the hoodie and the smoke, and it just disappears. Fantastic the way it was done. Bird did a fantastic job with that ending. But that was the seed that we get for Rogue Nation. Rogue Nation was great. Okay. Because we get a linear, now we start to get a linear story. So it's now a $150 million budget. So up until this time, all of these films, okay, have a $145, $150 million budget. And it's about what Paramount wanted to spend on it. Okay. And so this one does incredibly well too. Okay. Almost 700, just a shy under 689 million, almost 5 million less than Ghost Protocol. And I think it was because of a couple of things. Number one, you had the same characters coming back. Number two, it was a continuation of the story. Okay, so once again, you have a linear type of story. And the stunts, along with the action and everything else. Okay, so let's move on. Fallout. Fallout, I think I would, if you surveyed 10 Mission Impossible aficionados that know everything about the franchise, everything about the films, or I think at least 7, if not higher, would put Fallout as the number 1 film. Why? Because it had everything you wanted. It had the stars, okay? It had the stunts. It had the action, but it also had the star power. So you have an Angela Bassett, even though she's in 3 scenes in the whole movie, come in, elevates it right away. Alec Baldwin, regardless of what happened with Rust, and this is well before Rust, so forget about that. Boom, bring him in. The other thing about what makes Mission Impossible so good, okay, is, and Christopher Nolan, anybody who knows films, Christopher Nolan is one of the best directors, probably the best director in Hollywood today. The one thing that he does is he uses time as his compass. If you watch all of Christopher Nolan's films, whether it's The Dark Knight, whether it's Oppenheimer, whether it's Inception, whether it's Insomnia, the one thing Nolan does is he uses time. he compresses the window. What we did here in Fallout, okay, from the very beginning, okay, we're right out of the gate, okay. We see that car shooting around the tarmac, okay, they're about to board. We see Bassett and Henry Cavill make the call. They shut the plane down. Bassett and Baldwin have a little exchange. We have Henry Cavill come up on board, okay, as somebody who's going to come along the mission. And then the stunts. The stunts in itself, between the helicopter, between the halo jump, it took 18 months to film that. That's incredible. And they were able to do it. Yes, there was some CGI involved, but just being able, they're only doing one jump a day. That tells you a lot about the practicality and why Cruise is so good. I personally believe he's the last movie star we have in Hollywood, but that's a different discussion for a different time. Fallout tears it up. It makes almost $787 million. And this is the biggest budget they've had. It was a $178 million budget. That's the largest one they've had. But it made almost 4 times its money, guys. That's incredible. Okay? So, after Fallout, we get Dead Reckoning. Now, as you guys can see here on the graph, okay, Dead Reckoning, okay, is the light blue, and it's all the way up in the very top, guys. I'm sorry, it is, let's see if I can find this here. Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, Fallout is the very top. Okay, so Dead Reckoning Part 1, okay, is we're going to call it a purple. Yeah, I think it's around the purple. It's right in the middle of the screen, guys. Anyways, that being said, this is the biggest budget it's ever had. Okay, $290 million. $300 million. Now, remember what I said. The two things I said were this. Up until that point, you had about $145, $150 million budget. Now you're going to $300 million. The only one of the films up until that point was Endgame. Why? Well, you had star power, sure. But it was a 12-year journey to get to that point. This is one film that's, yes, it's a movie, but still, it's a huge, huge, huge budget. Okay? Now, anybody has seen Dead Reckoning, it's 2 hours and 43 minutes with credits. Okay? And it performed the highest one of the bunch. I'm sorry, that was Fallout. It kind of underperformed. $565 million. It made only $54 million worldwide. Now, anybody who remembers a couple of years ago, we had a few movies come out. One was called Oppenheimer that won 7 Oscars, and the other one was Barbie. We had this thing that we'll probably never see in my lifetime again, where we had the juxtaposition and the marketing was just, okay. I believe that took a lot away from Dead Reckoning. Okay. And you had the PLFs, the premium large formats, the Dolbys, the 4Xs, the Screen 3Ds, the IMAXs. So that took a lot away from it because no one filmed it. And there was a tussle between Paramount and Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers ended up winning. Hence, Oppenheimer makes $1 billion. Not to say that Dead Reckoning would have crossed $1 billion because it definitely fell short. But you have to look, it could have probably grossed under $50 or $60 million. Okay. That's the thing. I love looking at films, not only in the here and now, but, a couple of years. So you have that happen. $300 million. Okay. It's huge. Now, once again, the budget reportedly here for Part 2, the final reckoning, okay, is 400. I've heard 450, but let's just call it 400. $400 million. Now, highest grossing budget movie of all time. In order for a movie to be successful, okay, a movie will typically have to make between 2 to 3 times its budget. Okay. So, that being said, and by the way, guys, that doesn't even include marketing. Okay. So, they released this trailer online today. It's going for anybody who has not seen it. Okay. It will be on I will imagine it will be shown. It is going to be shown during the basketball game, college basketball championship game tonight. Okay. So as I said, it's going to be at least 2 to 3 times. So in order for this movie to be successful, to break even, to break and earn a profit, it's got to make over $1 billion. Hands down. If we're saying 2.5 times, it's got to be at least $1 billion. And that's to break even. Anything over $1 billion, that's icing on the cake. Do I think it's going to be $1 billion movie? No. I'm just going to be flat out honest. I don't think. Because if you have to look at previous results often dictate future outcomes, guys. So if you look at the previous results, okay, if you look at the previous results, the largest grossing film in the bunch was $786 million, and that was Fallout. Okay, that was 7 years ago. Okay, that being said, that was a remarkable film. This is not to say this isn't going to be a remarkable film. I do believe it's going to be a fantastic film, but I don't think it's going to be in the nature of a Fallout. I just don't. That all being said, we're wrapping it up. We're wrapping up the franchise as a whole. Now let's take a look at some of the averages here. Okay, so with the production budget being $400 million, and we're averaging it, okay, the average budget for this franchise, the average budget is $189 million. So let's say 100. It says 189.1. Let's say $190 million. 190 million, which is still quite a lot of money. Okay. The average opening weekend. Now, this is, you got to remember, guys, this is over the course of 25, 30 years, is $47 million. Okay. Even Fallout, that grossed almost $800 million, only grossed $61 million opening weekend. That tells you something. Now, the reason why you have to look into, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, the reason why you have to look into why it only grows so much is because of the movies, the picture that came out that week or the week before. Okay. So that's something to be said too. Okay. The domestic box office, okay, Fallout being the number one, it averaged $189 million. So it's averaging just about its budget, okay, in general for the box office. Now, if you look at the numbers, Fallout, again, was the highest grossing one at $220 million. And that made $786 million, okay? Usually, guys, what you want is a 50-50. In a perfect world, you're getting a 50-50 split. 50 domestic, 50 overseas. Realistically, that's not happening. Okay? That's just not happening. These kind of movies, they're made for overseas. Okay? Even though they're made here in America, they're made for overseas because there are more countries. Right? There are more countries. China is the number one largest grossing market in the world. Okay? That's why, Marvel and Disney and Warner Bros. Everybody depends on China. Everybody. Because if you can get your film into China, you're going to make a lot of money overseas. So you're talking about China, Austria, Germany, France, Switzerland, Italy, runs the gamut. Okay? Not to mention you have Australia and all these other. That's why they do worldwide tours. That's why the junket is 6 months. Okay, a couple months, 6 weeks, but it's a big, or a couple of months, so it's a big thing. These kind of films are made for over there, not here, unless it's really good, like a Fallout. So that is the domestic take home. And this is why I'm going to say this is going to break $1 billion. Okay, the average worldwide box office of these films is $591 million. That's it. It's not even $600 million. Average. That's worldwide, guys. That's the whole pie. That's the whole kit and caboodle. So to say that this is going to make $1 billion is unrealistic. So now it's made a ton of money. Okay, it's made over $4.1 billion worldwide. Okay, over $1 billion here in the States. Okay, just to put something in perspective for you guys. Okay, that amount that it's made, the whole total amount, $1.327 billion. That's what Oppenheimer almost grossed by itself. One movie. Or take any $1 billion, I mean, whether it's Endgame or you try whatever it is. That is going to be why it's not going to make $1 billion. It's going to be huge, but it's not going to be the same. And the reason why I run through this is because as big as this is, with as big a budget as this is, Paramount wants to get this off the plate because they're losing money. They're losing money on this. And that's something else I'm going to get into a little bit later about, and it goes back to the title of this video. Is this the end of Mission Impossible as we know it? Okay? Because there have been hints and inklings and everything else dropped that, well, there might be somebody else in the pipeline. So that's that. Okay? That's a very important part of the zeitgeist of what it is and how it goes and everything else. So that's part one. Okay. And I know this has been long-winded and everything else, but I really wanted to get people to understand why this is what it is. The second part of this, okay, guys, as the last 25 years, okay, we have had a ton of films to have, well, let's face it, we've had a ton of films that have had two parts to it. So, that being said, there are reasons why. But let's walk through a couple of these that have had two parts and where I think some may have hit the mark and some may have gone wrong. So, let's start with the number one grossing horror film of all time. And I'm talking about It. Yes, that It. This is a remake from back in the 80s with Tim Curry. Okay, and anybody who's familiar, anybody my age knows about this. But this is a remake. Stephen King has been the champion as far as horror films for the past 40 years. Without Stephen King, we don't get a horror genre. I'm going to be absolutely honest about that. Okay. So that being said, I think it's very important to understand. Now, anybody that has understood, so a lot of these, I won't say a lot, some of these, okay, are adaptations. Some of these are adaptations. It is a book. It is an adaptation, okay? The book is like it's a dictionary, okay? If you can read it, God bless you, okay? It's over 1,000 pages. That's why they had to break it into two films, okay? Because it wasn't just that, okay? They had to break it into two films because of the length of the book. They had to, okay? And this is going to go, I'll talk about some of the reasons here in a couple of minutes about why they do what they do. But it is actually, so I've seen both. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Chapter 2 was okay. I thought it was about a 20-minute run, a little bit longer than I would have liked. Um, but yeah, that's probably one of the first ones that comes to mind. Okay. Kill Bill. Now, let's be honest. Tarantino is just, when we talk about directors and masters, we have, Spielberg, Scorsese, Coppola, all of these guys. Okay. Tarantino is in that company. But for what Tarantino does, and when he writes, he goes back and he rewrites, and he goes back and he rewrites, and he goes back and he rewrites until he gets it to where he wants it. That's why he has 2 Oscars for screenplays. Okay. But that being said, Kill Bill is just too long of a story in order to put it out there for why. I mean, you're not going to watch a 5-hour movie in one sitting. You're just not. Okay. But you'll watch 2.5-hour movies. And that's where you have to find the right endpoint, okay, in order for these to work. Okay. And that's the biggest thing about all of these movies I'm going to talk about here. Okay. The number one thing, some of them did it well, others didn't do it so well. Now, when it comes to it, okay, I think it did it pretty well. Okay, because they left it at just the right spot. Okay, and the kids were going away to camp, or going away for the summer, so they all shared an experience. That was the right place. Okay, Kill Bill was, I think it's been years since I've seen it, so don't rail on me too much, guys. But I think it was a good place. Okay, it was a really good place in order to do it. Okay, that's probably a movie I should probably go back and watch pretty soon. So let's move to another movie another franchise that was huge, but ended it in the wrong spot. Excuse me, guys. The Hunger Games. Like the movies, okay? Dystopian world, all of that. You have some big name stars: Woody Harrelson, Elizabeth Banks, Donald Sutherland, of course, Jennifer Lawrence. This is what made her. But they ended it in the wrong spot. I'm just going to call it what it is. I don't know what drove them to end it where they did. Maybe they couldn't find a good ending point to it, but it didn't work. It didn't work. Okay? And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to certain movies that don't end it properly. Okay? And that's very, very important, because if you ended it at the right spot, you're going to get people to come back in that hook. Okay? Another film that did it really well, and that was a huge, huge hit, not only because it was done well, but it was Harry Potter. Now, once again, you got to remember the times, right? At the times, the books were huge. Kids were reading. I mean, you couldn't keep these things at Barnes and Noble and on the shelf. Okay, they were coming off unbelievably fast, but they ended it at just the right spot. Okay, and that's what made the second part even that much more compelling. Okay, and then I think I would be remiss, and I've mentioned it a couple times. Infinity War. So this was in 2019. Okay, it's interesting because you had Black Panther that had just come out a couple of months prior. Okay, but this was the end. And what Marvel Studios did at that time will never be topped. That was premium. That was prime time Marvel right there. Up until that point, you had only seen Thanos 4 times, 3 or 4 times. Once at the end of the Avengers, he didn't say a word. All he did was turn and grin. Twice in Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay? When he's talking with Ronan. And then when he's actually Ronan, they let the cube from the cube. They escape. The Guardians escape from the cube, and he talks to him there. Okay. And then actually at the end of Guardians in the cutscene, fine, I'll do it myself. That's it. So when we see him in Infinity War, it's game on. That is his whole movie. I've watched Infinity War with the commentary on. And the Russos, who are coming back to do Doomsday and Secret Wars, I hope they keep the same formula because this works so well. So well. This was a tragedy. Okay. And with, the writers and everything else, they ended it at just the right spot. So if anybody who's a screenwriting buff, okay, knows that there's 24 plot points, okay, and there's a plot point specifically called the point of no return. And the point of no return is that one plot point where you think the hero is never going to survive this or never going to make it through this, and they do. They ended it right on that plot point. So you want to talk about a cliffhanger? That was it. That was a ballsy move on their part. Because up until that point, you never see the heroes lose and then they just ended. Or it was very rare. Oh my God, what they did, what? And you're talking about two different worlds too. You're talking about the thing on Titan and of course what happened on Wakanda. It was a ballsy move. So, when we get to Endgame, and by the way, this is why it broke every single record imaginable, okay? In the first, look, Endgame made $250 million its opening weekend. Think about that for a minute. That's as much. Okay, let's go back to the budgets here for a minute. That's as much as Dead Reckoning Part 1's total budget. Think about that for a minute. Dead Reckoning's total budget, the first film, was $290 million. This movie alone, in opening weekend, made $250 million. Like that. Why? Because it was so good. And this is what good cinema is, right? When that ends, everybody is like, oh my God, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Everybody was trying to figure out what the film's title for the second one was. Of course, they dropped a hint. Some people knew right away, others did not. So when they found out it was Endgame, they're like, okay. Now, if you were to ask me today, which one of these movies is better? I'm going to say Infinity War. Why? Because, first of all, you had the villains going through, he's a villain, going through and getting every single one of these stones. Okay? If you go back and watch Infinity War, and by the way, guys, I did a whole video, and I'll link it down in the description for you guys, about Infinity War and Endgame. If you go back and watch Infinity War, okay, every single time Thanos gets another stone, he uses it immediately. He doesn't wait. Okay? Every single time. Because what the Russos wanted to do was show the destructive power of that stone. Right? So, it breaks all, just fastest to 1 billion, fastest to 500 million. Okay? So, when this goes to Endgame, it blows up for not only 250, but 320 million. That is a record that will never be topped. Never. Ever. Think about that. Let's go back to the example I was using earlier. This is, okay, let's go back to the budgets for a minute, guys. This is a $400 million budget, this film coming up, Dead Reckoning. Final Reckoning, rather. Dead Reckoning Part 1 had a $290 million budget. That blew it away by $30 million opening weekend. That's right. $30 million. Okay? That's good cinema. That's good cinema. Fastest to a $500 million, fastest to $1 billion, fastest to $1.5 billion, fastest to $2 billion. That goes to show you the power of what good filmmaking is. So yeah. The reason why I say all this stuff is basically for this. There's a good point and there's a bad point about being able to end films in the correct point. If you end it in the correct point, okay, it's going to do really well. It just is. If you don't, like Hunger Games, okay, you're going to struggle. So, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to now get the next portion of this, and this is going to take a little bit of time, so I will just bear with me, guys, for a minute, and I'm going to, trust me, guys, I'll edit this out, okay, so you guys do not have to worry about this. So the next section, okay, is what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the reason why. I'm going to tell you the reasons why these movies do what they do. Because it's very important. We all want these movies to come out as fast as possible, right? We all do. But we also have to understand that there are reasons why they don't. And so there are 3 major reasons why these films don't come out when at that time. So let's move to the very first reason, okay? And that's creative direction. So sometimes, obviously, the creative direction is a big portion of whatever the movie is, okay? So whether it's the look, the movie, the artwork, whatever it is. So sometimes they have to split it up, okay? Because one movie, if you take a look at, let's say, Infinity War to Endgame, it's 2 totally different movies, right? So you have one all being about Theranos, and then the other one you only see him until the 3rd act. Okay. So the creative direction does have a big portion to do with it. Now, Dead Reckoning, okay, was nearly a 3-hour film. So was Endgame, okay? Actually, it was 3:02. Infinity War was about 2:45, okay? But that's one part. So there is a major reason why. And you know for a fact that Tom Cruise is putting his input in this, okay? So there is a major, not to mention you've got the casting and everything else, who's going to be the best one, but they have to do this for story purposes, okay? One thing you'll see here, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, is some of the characters that came in this first film. What are they going to do in the second film? So that's a major, major thing, okay? And look, McHugh and Cruise have been working together for, 10, 12 years. This is going to be their 4th film together. So that tells you everything you need to know about them, okay? So creative differences is the first major direction, is the first reason why they have to split these up into 2 films. The second reason, guys, practical. Okay, you're not going to sit down and watch a 6-hour movie. I mean, I know you've got Lawrence of Arabia and everything else, but consider this, okay? What you have is, and this is, the picture here is the animated, but consider this, guys. Even The Godfather, arguably one of the, if not the greatest movie ever made, okay, it's number 3 on AFI's Top 100 list, was broken into 2 parts. That tells you something. Because we're seeing not only The Godfather in Marlon Brando then and now, but we saw the rise of Vito. We saw Michael as a child. We saw how Vito came to power. We saw who maybe betrayed him to get to that point. That's a big thing. Practical reasoning, guys. You try to sit down and watch Endgame and Infinity War back to back. It's 6 hours, guys. It's a phenomenal 6 hours. I'm not disputing it. What I'm saying is there's major, it's practical, right? It's, yes, it's about money, but it's also about being practical, because you have to look at it this way, guys. It's a symbiotic relationship. I make a movie, okay? I have to go give it to a theater, okay? That theater has to show, even though I'm getting a lot of the money back, they have to show that. Now, here's the thing. Let's say a movie theater opens at 10 a.m. and they close at 11 p.m. If I were to give them a 6-hour movie, now 10 to 11 is 13 hours, okay? If I were to give them a 6-hour movie, and by the way, now that I'm curious about it, if anybody in the comments can tell me, I know Lawrence Arabia's got to be up there at like 4:30, or maybe it's like 3:50. Now I'm going to Google it. Bear with me, guys. I want to find out exactly how long is. I know Lawrence of Arabia was very, very long. It is okay. Hold on. Bear with me, guys. Running time here. Okay, so to put it in perspective, guys, Lawrence of Arabia is 3 hours and 47 minutes. That's a long movie, okay? Here's my point. They have to be able to break it up. Each one of the Infinity War movies, each Infinity War and The Godfather, I'm getting myself mixed up. Infinity War and Endgame is 3 hours. That's a 6-hour movie. No exhibitor, no theater chain is going to put a 6-hour movie in there. But what they will do is they will put a 3-hour. So that's a major. And besides, it's a long time. You want to sit down and watch the movie, the whole movie. You don't have to get up and use the restroom and everything else. Okay. And there's one final reason why they do it. Okay. Financial purposes. Yeah, it's money. I'm not going to lie to you. It's money. They have to be able to budget this. Okay. As we talked about, okay, and we've looked at, every single one of the budgets for Mission Impossible went up. It started at $90 million and went up to 120 and went up to maybe 140 to 150, and then it ballooned to 290, and now it's 400. They have to be able to, and that's above the line, that's below the line, that's marketing, that's everything, guys. There's a lot of different reasons why they have to do this, okay? Now, are they going to make their money back? Maybe. But it's going to be tough to figure it out, okay? And also, it's scheduling, Dune Part 2, and the reason why I chose those films that I chose and I showed you guys is because those are only 2 movies. Okay. We have a ton of trilogies out there. Now, I know Harry Potter had like 7 films. Fast X had like, I think they're on like the 10th film. Okay. But I'm talking about the ending films, guys. Okay. Dune. Now, the reason why I didn't put Dune in there, and yes, there was a part 1, and we did get a part 2 this last year, is because they are making Messiah. Okay. So there is going to be a 3rd film in that trilogy, or Star Wars, or whatever. There is more than one film. Okay. So that's why I chose it, and Avengers, and Hunger Games, and everything else, because there are only 2 movies in the ending of it. Okay. So those are the 3 major reasons why they did what they did. So now we've talked about the franchise. We've talked about why they do what they do. and we've talked about the money aspect of it. It's now time, guys, to get to what I think is going to be the best part of this whole thing. I'm going to, after another moment here, I'm going to just reload this. What I'm going to do, guys, is we're going to walk through, and obviously, like I said, I can't show you this trailer because I don't want to get demonetized. But what I can show you is a lot of the stills. And I'm going to give you my predictions. And once again, guys, these are only going to be predictions. Okay? To do that. So let's just give me a quick moment here. And for all those who are watching, so I'm just gonna put these in, and then give me 2 minutes. And for everybody on the live stream, just stay with me. For all those that are doing that, I'll be back in 1 minute. So thank you guys for everybody that's sticking with me here during this time. I'm just plugging in the photographs here. And I want to give a special shout out to one of my members who's been with me for, well, ever since the beginning of the channel. Dadpool has been a loyal follower of this channel ever since the inception of it. And I want to thank you for 21 months. You mean the world to me. I know we don't talk as much as we should. I'm right now in the midst of trying to find a job myself. That's why the channel kind of went astray. But I want to say I really hope you're doing well, and I am sorry about your personally devastating news. You do follow me on Twitter. Please DM me, and hang in there. Okay, I know you're a warrior, so I want you to know that. So thank you very much, Deadpool. So as I finish here, let me just give you my quick thoughts on the trailer while I do finish this up. I want to say that I thought it was good. I thought it was good. So couple of things that I noticed. Okay. So the first thing is I hope that they don't try and cram everything into this one movie to try and wrap it up. That's my first hope. My second hope is that I hope Ethan survives, but I have a sneaking suspicion. Okay, and by the way, when I say this, guys, I have absolutely no insight on this. I have no idea, but I think that Ethan might die. I hope not, but if you know anything about his character, you'll know that he's willing to do anything to save his friends. And if that means giving up his life to take care of it, then he'll do it. So, okay. Okay, I think that's it. Okay. So, a couple of things I am curious to see. Let's move to the first thing. Okay. In this particular movie, okay, in this particular trailer, we do see a shot of Ethan grabbing the rabbit's foot. Now, anybody who's well known and watched the movies, okay, know that the rabbit's foot was the go-to thing in the third film. Okay. This is what Owen Davies was after. Okay. And we don't know what it is. Okay. The only thing we do know about the rabbit's foot is that it's biological. That's it. We do see a shot of Ethan grabbing the rabbit's foot. Now, what that means and how it's going to be used, I don't know. Okay. But I do like the fact that this is being brought back. Okay, after all of these years, we'll see how that whole thing plays out. Okay, the next thing, okay, is Angela Bassett. Now, I want you to take a very strong look to see who's in the background there. Okay, you have Nick Offerman, of course. He was on The Last of Us, which anybody who hasn't watched The Last of Us, and Last of Us Part 2 starts next week, take the time out, whether you're a gamer or not. You want to watch good television. That's the way to go. And Charles Purnell. Purnell, of course, has been in a lot of Tom Cruise films. Most recently, Top Gun Maverick. He's now in Dead Reckoning Part 2. Okay, I'm sorry, Final Reckoning. I'm so used to calling Dead Reckoning. But Final Reckoning, this is going to be good. Bassett brings a gravity to this role. Okay, she does. She absolutely does. And I think that's something very important. Okay, that is going to help with this film. Okay, it's not going to be 3 hours of just action. We're going to have boardroom type of meetings. Maybe she's on the phone with the president. We don't know. But that all being said, she's going to bring a gravity to this film that I think is much needed. Okay. The other thing we saw, and this isn't a shock, okay, stunts. Tom Cruise is a madman. I'm just going to put it to you like that. No, this is why I say Tom Cruise is the last movie star we have in Hollywood today. Because if you look at Tom Cruise over the course of his career, he's really had two careers. Started all the way back in 1980 with Taps, okay, all the way up to 96 with Mission Impossible, working with guys like Spielberg, Scorsese, Reiner. I mean, everybody, okay? He's always wanted to learn the craft, not just in front of the camera, but the lighting, the cinematography, the direction, the props, everything, because that's what kind of he wanted to be a complete and total person. Okay, he could direct anything he wants, but he chooses to be in front, and he demands. He doesn't ask; he demands the best out of everybody, and that's why he is so good at what he does. The stunts. That is a major reason why Mission Impossible is Mission Impossible. Yes, you have the gadgets. Yes, you have the characters. But if you take a look at the stunts over the course of 30 years, they've gotten bigger, they've gotten bolder, they've gotten crazier, and they've gotten more large in scope. Whether it's him dangling from the floor, okay, in Mission Impossible, whether it's hanging from the side of a plane, okay, in Ghost Protocol, whether it's climbing the tallest building in the world. Okay, actually, that was Ghost Protocol, where he climbs the tallest building in the world. Okay, whether it's the jump. And by the way, guys, I recommend anybody to go back and find the video. It's on YouTube for free. I think it's on Paramount's YouTube page. Go back and watch that. It's fascinating to see that. Whether it's the train in Dead Reckoning, this is all practical, guys, with the exception of the ramp, which they took out. But it's all practical. He's hanging from the side of the helicopter stunts in Fallout. He's hanging from that. Okay, that just goes to show you his dedication. What he did in Top Gun Maverick. Why do you think Top Gun Maverick made him over $1 billion? Yes, the guy's a crazy nut, but he flies planes. He got everybody to fly those planes. Not just him, Glenn Powell, and everybody else. So that's another reason why. Okay. So one thing that they're going to do in this film that we've seen from these two trailers, okay, is wrap things up. Now, speaking of the speaking of the first Mission Impossible, we have somebody coming back. You're thinking, who's coming back? Remember him, guys? Yes. Yes. Now you know where he's coming from. That was the guy in the room where the Nautilus was 30 years later. So anybody who's not familiar with it, okay, quickly, there's a scene in Mission Impossible, and that's the whole thing. Max is played awesome by Vanessa Redgrave. Anyways, and that's another thing they did with continuity. The White Widow, that's her daughter. Okay, I digress. So they go in and steal the Nautilus. And that was the guy that was in the room. Okay? And so there's that scene, okay, where he says, you and I are the only two people that know about it. I want to mail him his clothes. I want him by the end of the day, I want him manning a post in Alaska, mail him his clothes. That's the guy. That's the guy. So they're bringing him back 30 years later. I think that is fascinating. And it's a fantastic callback from anybody that that has seen the films. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, go. Thank you very much for that. Go check that out. All that good stuff. And hopefully I'm going to be posting more of this, but I needed to do this because of the Final Reckoning trailer. But thank you very much for that. So he is the guy, as I said, that was in the room with the Nautilus. It's very cool they're bringing him back after 30 years. Now, there's another little nugget here, okay? There was a knife, okay, that was there, that was in the room that Jean Renault, okay, of The Professional. Anybody who's seen that knows that that was from, it was this right here, okay, where, so this is going to come up here in a minute. It's the same knife. And what they do in the trailer, which I thought was really well done, okay, they show the scene with that. They show that. And then the very next scene, the very next shot, they show this. It's the same knife. How does that's just a really cool callback. Now, my hope is that this isn't just full of Easter eggs, but that's another little, I won't say cute, but a cool callback. Okay. And then there's another little scene we saw. Grace. So Grace made her appearance in the first Dead Reckoning movie. Here is a scene where he's going down in the water, and I'm assuming that he loses oxygen, and she's going down to try and give him oxygen and kisses him to try to save him. So, all in all, I thought the trailer was good. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really, really curious to see where this is going to go. Okay. Now, a couple of things. Now this is going to be part 3 of the video, and this is, I'm almost done, guys. Bear with me, but there's a lot of stuff we have to go through. Okay, we've gone through most of it. Now, what I'm going to talk about with you guys is what I think is going to happen. Once again, I have no idea, so these are not spoilers. And then where I think the franchise is going to go from here. So, where do I think it's going to go? There are a couple of things I can tell you right off the bat without even seeing this film on May 30th. That's going to happen. The first thing is this. In some capacity, and we may have already seen the shot, okay, with this, but Grace is going to save Ethan in some capacity. Because in film, you have to have a yin and you have to have a yang. You have to have a give and you have to have a take. You can't just have one, 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 one. You have to have both sides. The thing is that Ethan saved Grace at the end of the first film, right? So my guess is that he runs out of oxygen here. She dives in. They're like, no, 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 he'll make it. She dives in on her own and swims down to the very bottom and gives him oxygen and saves Ethan. That's the first thing. That's just a hunch, okay? Because you have to have both things. Number two, okay? I think that you're gonna have Palm's character. Okay, let me see if I can find the cast list again. You're gonna have Palm Clementoff's character. Okay. Save, or not save, but kill Gabriel. Okay. I think you're gonna have Palm Clementoff's character kill Gabriel. Because she didn't get a lot of speaking lines in the first film. So my guess is she's going to be talking quite a bit in the second film. Okay. And I think that you're going to have her kill Gabriel. And it only makes sense because when you think about it, Gabriel tried to kill her. Now, yes, Ethan did try to kill Gabriel did try to kill Ethan. You're absolutely right. But at the end of the day, Gabriel's just a proxy. Okay. The entity is the big thing. Anybody who's seen the first film, this isn't a spoiler, so don't worry. Vin Rames says, what is your mission? What is your ultimate mission? And Ethan says, to kill the entity. Right. So if the enemy thought that he was going to kill Gabriel, and he didn't, there you go. Palm's character almost died by Gabriel. My guess is that she is going to be the one to kill Gabriel. That's just me. I have no inside knowledge about that, but I would just say yes. That. Number 3. I think that Kittredge is going to get his at the end of the day. Okay? He's been a bad guy for the last couple of films. He was a bad guy in the first film. Okay? He challenged Ethan again. I think it's going to come back full circle and bite. Now, we don't know how, but Ethan has to win. Right? So, that being said, the last thing I'll say is this. I think, and this is just think, I'm emphasizing the word think because I have no inside knowledge. I think that Ethan's going to die. And the reason I say that is because if he has to give his life up for the greater good to save his friends, he'll do it. So I think that scene you quickly see of him locking in and that, the vision and him going through all this stuff, I think the enemy is finally going to get it. Okay? The one name that I'm shocked on here that I did not see, okay, and maybe they're leaving it off for a reason, is Michelle Monaghan. So if you go back and watch all the films from Mission Impossible 3 up until now, the thing is this. We've seen Michelle in we've seen her in every other film. So we saw her in 3. We saw her at the end of Ghost Protocol. Okay. With him, in Seattle. We saw her in Fallout. We didn't see her in Dead Reckoning. So the question is, who does Ethan? If Ethan lives, who does he end up with? Because we know Rebecca Ferguson passed. She died by the hands of Gabriel. Okay? I will be very, very, very upset. very upset if he ends up with Grace. Very upset. Because it just doesn't make sense story-wise. It doesn't. And that's the other thing, too. Okay, so there's one more thing I can pretty much guarantee you about in this movie. Grace is going to kick ass. She's going to kick ass and take names. Look out for her. Because she was learning the ways, and now she's a full-fledged agent. So I really do believe those are the things you're going to see. Now, are they all going to come true? Probably not. But I think if you're splitting it up into two parts and you're having one, you have to have the opposite in the other. It's just a fact. The fact that, okay, so those I think are guarantees. For me, at least, they are. As a filmmaker or film buff and everything else, I'll be shocked if they're not there. Okay. So we've talked about what I think. Let's finish up by saying where I think the franchise is going to go. Okay. So where does it go from here? That's the number one question. So if we saw it earlier, okay, it's got a $400 million budget. That's a lot of money. I think Paramount, okay, as much as Tom Cruise has clout and everything else, I think Paramount just wants to get this off its plate at this point. I can't see them making any more films after this. I can't. I could be totally wrong. There were rumblings and hints that Glenn Powell, the guy from Twisters, Top Gun Maverick, was going to take over the role. But you have to ask yourself this question. Why? Why would Paramount invest X amount of millions of dollars? Now, you know Cruise has points too, okay? So anybody who's unfamiliar with points are something that are written into contracts that essentially, this is how RDJ became a billionaire. Essentially what they are is they get, if the movie hits a certain earmark, say it's $100 million opening weekend or $300 million worldwide, what will end up happening is that they get an extra bonus. So not only they're getting their salary, they may take a reduction in salary, okay? But what ends up happening is they'll get the money on the back end. So you know Cruise is he's producing it, okay? He's starring in it. You know he's getting points. So why would Paramount want to continue with this, okay? When the budget is ballooned so much, it's too incredible to figure. The other thing is this, the quality of the film, right? Think about this for a minute. If you have a guy hanging off a plane, okay, like Cruise is doing here, okay, or you have a guy climbing the tallest building in the world, or whatever it is, is Glenn really going to have that much commitment and take that much of a role? Because if we go back and we look at the duration in between each film, you're talking anywhere between 4 to 6 years. That Halo jump in Fallout took over a year to plan. Okay? Or him flying a plane, or him doing whatever. Okay? I don't see it. I don't see it. Powell may be a big name, but he's not a star. Okay? And that's where I think that unless he's going to do something like that, don't bother. Don't bother. Because that's what film fans have come to expect. It's, what is Tom Cruise going to do this time? Climbing the tallest building in the world, hanging off of planes, doing these, jumping off a cliff. I don't see Glenn Powell doing that. I just don't. So I think you're better off just putting it to bed. And the fact that you have a $400 million budget, how much do you think there's no way. It doesn't make sense. And top of all of that, how many other stars are you going to get to come back? Simon Pegg, Vin Rames, Haley Atwell. My guess is she was under contract for just these 2 movies. Okay? I don't see it. So I think they just need to finish it. And look, that's why it's called the final reckoning. It's a final. It's done. And I don't think people are going to respond. People are going to go see this movie because number one, because of the stunts. So they're going to see what. But the name look at that. It says Tom Cruise. There's a major difference if it says Glenn Powell. Cruise has been in the industry for 45 years. Okay? So I think there's something to be said about that. All that being said. I think this is the last one. So let me wrap everything up real quick. Okay? We're going on almost an hour and a half. And thank you for everybody that's sticking with me throughout this whole thing. But everything had to be said. I think a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, I think this is it. I think this is the final Mission Impossible. I would have actually liked to see them come out with this next year, because it would have been the 30th anniversary, but nonetheless. Okay, so that's number one. I think this is the final film. Number two, I think that this is going to go down as, when we talk about franchises, it's going to go down as one of the best franchises of all time. Okay, right up there with Harry Potter and Avatar and Star Wars and, all these others. It's going to go down as one of the best franchises of all time. And number three, I think it's going to be interesting to see, besides Cruise, because he'll be fine, what do these stars do after? Because that's the thing, right? If you take a look at Marvel, and you take a look at Scarlett Johansson and Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Hemsworth and everybody else, what were the projects after? I mean, you had RDJ go Dr. Dolittle. We won't talk about that movie, but he could, because he had the money. Or Scarlett Johansson go do a little movie. They're known for this. At the end of the day, Tom Cruise will be known as Ethan Hunt. That's it. More than Maverick, more than Jerry Maguire, more than, the guy in Rain Man, and more than, he'll be known as Ethan Hunt. And I think that that's where they need to end it. So it will be very interesting. I am excited. I am going to go see it. So, we're only 6 weeks away, or a little over 2 months away. Comes out, I believe, the last week of May 23rd, I want to say. And the reason why they're bringing it out at the end of May is because, well, you have the Thunderbolts coming out the first week. Okay? May 23rd, it comes out. You have the Thunderbolts coming out. But more importantly, July is going to be stacked. Right? You've got Fantastic Four, Superman, and Jurassic World. They do not want to compete against that. So they want to get as much money. They're going to have the whole month of June to themselves. Yeah, you've got a Megan come out and everything else, but that's still going to be making a lot of money. So, yeah. So that is going to do it for the Mission Impossible. Couple of things, guys. First and foremost, if you have stuck around to the end of the video, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It does help the channel. Drop me a comment about who your favorite character is. Which Mission Impossible did you start watching at? Have you watched all of them? All of that good stuff. Also, guys, I want to say that I know I have not been streaming for a long, long time. Personal reasons. I've lost my job, and I don't want to get into it here. I don't want this video to go on any longer than necessary. But yeah, I had a whole thing set up, ready to go. And so yeah, it was one of those things where, that being said, though, and the reason I bring it up, and Dadpool is already, he knows about this, but I want to bring it to everybody else's attention. So, and I'm kind of sprinkle these in throughout the video. Memberships. So this channel, which I am not, this is the first time I've done a long video like this in a long time. I do want to try and get back streaming, but I'm trying to get everything in my personal life figured out right now. But memberships do help. And I know you're probably tied up on money. You're like, well, how can I give somebody if I don't have? Just hear me out, guys. Okay. And this is important because, and I would never ask, but here's the thing. First and foremost, this is free. So the first month's not going to cost you a dime. Okay. I made the first month completely free because here's what I want. I want you to enjoy the channel. I want you to enjoy the videos. I want you to enjoy everything about it. Okay. If you like what you see, okay, the first month is $3.99 a month. Okay. And the way I compare it to things on the outside is that's a gallon of gas. Okay. So for $3.99 a month, you can help me out and help me fulfill my dream of actually doing this full time. Okay. The second one is $5.99 a month. Okay. That is, maybe you go out to a fast food restaurant. You're going to spend, that's a meal at a fast food restaurant. Okay. And that's going to, once again, help me get to my goal of actually being to do this on a full-time basis. And then finally is the director at $9.99 a month. And Dadpool, you're a legend. He is at the director level. Okay. It's $10 a month, guys. The way I look at it is this. You look at all the streaming services out there right now, whether it's HBO Max, whether it's Hulu, whether it's Disney Plus, whether it's Apple TV, they're all more than Netflix. They're all more than $9.99 a month. Okay. I'm putting nothing behind a paywall for you guys. Okay. Nothing. I'm talking about like the perfect movie series, the anatomy of a movie, the retrospectives, the interviews. I'm putting nothing behind a paywall for you guys. Okay. All I ask is that you support me in trying to get where I need to go and want to go so I can do this on a full-time basis. Now, truth be told, I have not done anything in 2025. This is my very first stream. This is my very first video because my work, everything else. I want to get back into this. Now, I need a full-time job, but one thing you guys can do is help me out by giving me memberships. Okay. The other thing too is it's going to be free. Hit that like and subscribe. And I know I keep saying it, but that's going to put the channel out there for other people to see. They watch it. They go, oh, I really like this. They watch some of the videos, get to the subscribe. And that's how this community is going to grow, guys. And that's how it's going to grow. This is the first one I'm doing because, I wanted to do it, but also because of the Mission Impossible trailer. So, like I said, guys, This is where it starts. It always starts out small, but you guys can help me along the way. Deadpool's been an absolute legend. He's been here since the beginning. Okay. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that is or I keep calling it Twitter, X. You guys want to follow me on X? That is the handle down there. I'm always talking about in spaces about talking about movies or anything like that. So that's going to do it today. And this has been and once again, thank you guys for hanging in there. That all being said, thank you very much. I don't know when the next time I'll be streaming is. Hopefully very soon. I will, it depends on what goes on in the news too and whatever else. But I want to put this out there and give all my well wishes to everybody out there. So the 3 things I tell people to do. Number 1 is be safe. Number 2 is be careful. And number 3, guys, take care of each other. We're in a time right now. All right. So with all of that being said, thank you very much. And I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.